Hi, my name is Eli Kranzberg, and welcome to this new video series on Garritan Personal Orchestra 4 and Instant Orchestra. We're going to cover both libraries in this series. They're related, they work nicely together, and I'll outline the differences between the two when appropriate, and also when what I'm explaining applies to both, which will be most of the time. At the center of the whole Garritan system is the ARIA Player, which you're looking at right now. And this works in standalone mode. This is the ARIA Player in standalone mode, which accesses both libraries. Or you can use it within a plugin, and we'll be using it mostly within a DAW so we can program up parts and look at how all the controls work. But for now, I want to just show you the standalone version in this video to show you how to set it up. Now, when you're running the installer, if you're like me, I like to keep my samples on a separate drive. I'd suggest for these libraries, go with the default locations and have the installers place everything on the system drive in the applications folder. The ARIA system seems to work better that way. The results are sometimes inconsistent when using aliases, so leave them where they want to go by default. They don't take up a big footprint. They're about 2 gigabytes each. And when they're installed, they look something like this. These are each of the folders, and as I say, it's about 2 gigabytes, and leave them where they go. And for installing and licensing and authorizing these, they have a nice unique system which involves getting a credit card type of authorization from the website, and then you grab it, this is it over here, and you just drag it over the interface like that to authorize it. You release it and you'll get an authorization message. So very simple and straightforward. Now, to start with, in the standalone version, there are some preferences that don't apply in the plugin. So let's just look briefly at how to set that up in case you do want to use it outside of your DAW. And we'll go to the preferences, and it basically just involves selecting which MIDI device connected to your system you want to use for MIDI input. In my case, I have an Impulse keyboard, and I'm using that, but you can enable or disable whichever devices you want. And selecting your audio routing. Select your core audio driver here. I'm using a Motu 828 Mark II, but you can use any of the others that are core audio recognized. And if it's a multiple output interface like this is, select which output you want to route the audio through by default, and then the sample rate and the buffer size. These are defaults, but you can change them as needed, and that's only necessary, as I say, in the standalone version. Now, at the heart of the ARIA Player, and this applies to the standalone version or the plugin version, is this multi-timbral interface. We have 16 slots. We can load instruments up into each of the slots, and it involves, we'll look at this in more detail, but it just involves clicking here and going to the Personal Orchestra or the Instant Orchestra instruments and loading them in, and we can load them in one at a time like that. Or we can load in what are called ensembles, and an ensemble is basically a collection of up to 16 of the instruments. So it's a pre-saved configuration of a bunch of instruments. Now we can load ensembles many different ways. We can do it from the ensemble menu over here, and we can click hold here and, for example, go to Instant Orchestra and load in one of these ensembles. And you'll see here that it's loaded in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different instruments, and the rest are empty. Some contain more, some contain less. We can also load them in from the file menu here, and this is only in the standalone version. And for example, here it's showing me my Garritan Personal 4 ensembles, and I can load in one of those. And here it's replacing them and loading in here more of them. There's 8 of them here. Oh, more of them. There we go. It's loading up a full bank of 16 instruments here. And the third way is to just drag and drop. So let's say I'm in my Finder here. I can go into Ensembles and just drag and drop this in. And there it's replacing the current ensemble with this ensemble here that contains just these 2. So various ways of doing it. And when you create your own banks of instruments, you can save your own ensembles, and you can do that in standalone mode. From here, you can save as, and it'll default to your ensembles folder. And you can also save as a default. So when you open up the ARIA Player, it'll open up the ensemble that you want as a default. And we can also do it from the ensemble menu here. We can go save. And it defaults, I want to show you this because this is important when you're saving them here. It defaults to a folder that's nested in your user folder in the library application support Plogue, which is the company that makes the ARIA Player. Within ARIA presets, there's this folder, and that'll contain, by default, your user-defined ensembles. Other menu commands are fairly self-explanatory. We can go empty, and that'll empty out the current ensemble, and we can reload. So if we've got an ensemble loaded in and we make some changes, we can reload to sort of reinitialize it. So that's a little overview of how to manage the ensembles and the instruments. And there are several pages on the ARIA Player interface, and you saw it changed as I dragged this in and moved it over here by mistake, and it called up the other pages. But basically, we have these different pages that show different settings and controls depending on what's loaded in. And we'll go through them all in the next videos. So that's it for now. Welcome to Garritan. These are great libraries. You're going to have a ball using them. This is the ARIA Player, instruments, multi-timbral, up to 16 of them, stored and loaded in Ensembles. See if more in the next video.